Okay, gang, let's get uncomfortable. So, I know this is a difficult topic and we're hesitant to discuss it for obvious reasons. It's taboo, it's physically repellent, it's psychologically horrifying, and I think that this is the reason we need to talk about it. So, child trafficking and predatory behavior toward children is a real problem, and it's global. So this data is from whitehouse.gov. Plus, I did my own statistical analysis to clarify some of these numbers. From the International Labor Organization, 24.9 million victims of forced labor across the world, and children account for 25% of modern slaves. From 1 October 2016 to 29 September 2017, the Department of Homeland Security's Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and Homeland Security Investigations Unit, HSI, initiated 833 human trafficking cases, resulting in 1,602 arrests and 578 convictions. They also identified 518 victims of human trafficking. Health and Human Services has a national human trafficking hotline, and they received 8,686 unique cases of potential trafficking in fiscal year 17, the dates I outlined, identifying 21,644 potential victims. So the 518 victims identified by the Department of Homeland Security represent just under 2.5% of the total reported. I want to stress that. The number of people found by the Department of Homeland Security who were victims of sex trafficking represent just under 2.5% of the total number reported. It's astounding to me. Human trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar business. Annual profits from human trafficking are estimated to be as high as $150 billion in 2014. Since our intervention in Libya and the subsequent murder of Muammar Gaddafi, there are now open-air slave markets where human beings are sold. This is just a side note. Prior to his murder, Muammar Gaddafi intended to create an African currency that was 100% backed by gold and exchange oil contracts in gold as opposed to US dollars, which was the tradition. And I don't know that it's international law, but between the OPEC countries, those oil contracts are only exchanged in terms of US dollars, hence the term petrodollar. From the National Center for Victims of Crime, NCVC, children who do not live with both parents, as well as children living in homes marked by parental discord, divorce, or domestic violence, have a higher risk of being sexually abused. Children in broken homes are far more likely to be victimized. Children in the custody of Child Protective Services and non-religious charitable organizations are far more likely to be abused. And children with a man in the home who is not the biological father are more than 30 times more likely to be victimized. So grooming. Getting people off the street, getting people out of their homes, getting people out of schools, hospitals, etc., only takes a few steps. So what grooming means is you're taking people from their normal lives and psychologically and physically preparing them for a life of servitude. So you're grooming them for prostitution. This is also taken from the NCVC. Step number 1 is to gain access. Step number 2 is to establish trust. Step number 3 is to build a relationship around keeping secrets. And step number 4 is to initiate and exploit the power disparity that you've created. So what happens? Perpetrators gain access and establish a trusting relationship based on secrecy. So children are impressionable and people like secrets. I don't know if that's human nature. I can't prove that people like secrets, but in general, I think people like secrets. They like to hear about them and they like to tell them and exchange them. Often young girls, as in the ongoing UK grooming scandal, are addicted to drugs to create physical and psychological dependency. Typically heroin and other opiates such as OxyContin. This, as I mentioned earlier, is far easier to do when the father is absent or uninvolved in the child's life. This secrecy is also the source of power. This is why a close relationship and open communication with children is so crucial for parents. Children are often afraid to reveal the abuse for fear that they're going to be punished, and that fear is exploited by predators. Predatory people exploit fear. The report of the investigations undertaken jointly by the police and the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, NSPCC, in a piece called Giving Victims a Voice. This was published on 11 January 2013. Reports allegations covering a period of 50 years, including 214 alleged acts by Jimmy Savile, which, though uncorroborated, have been formally recorded as crimes, some involving children as young as 8. The report states, quote, within the recorded crimes, there are 126 indecent acts and 34 rape/penetration offenses. Alleged offenses took place at 13 hospitals as well as on BBC premises, according to the report. So enter the high-profile cases. Jimmy Savile is our first one. Not necessarily in any order. This is the order in which I heard about these individuals, and I don't believe I included Dennis Hastert, the congressman, but it's endemic. So Sir Jimmy Savile, that's right, Sir Jimmy Savile, died in 2011. He's a British TV host and radio personality, a philanthropist, and much of his work involved children at hospitals and children in protective services. He's heavily involved in children's charities, so Access and Trust. He's a close friend of Prince Charles and Prince Andrew and had regular access to the royal family. He was knighted in 1990. Power. Approximately 450 individuals allege abuse, many at hospitals, with the victims ranging in age from 5 to 75. The earliest reports of sexual misconduct were in 1958, but no charges were filed due to insufficient evidence. This is being revisited now because the internet never forgets. Enter Jeff Epstein, American billionaire, convicted pedophile, child rapist, close friend of Prince Andrew. Epstein was charged with the rape of 33 children, but pled guilty to 1 count. Power. He owns a Boeing 727, commonly known as the Lolita Express. His 2 assistants, or has had 2 assistants, Ghislaine Maxwell and Sarah Kellen. According to court documents, Ghislaine and Sarah would groom underage girls for prostitution to Epstein and his friends. Virginia Roberts, one of many alleged victims, alleged sexual contact with Prince Andrew during her service to Epstein. That's indentured servitude when I say service, and has been photographed with him. Among other claims, Roberts has alleged that high-profile individuals that visit Epstein's island engage in ritualistic pedophilia, and young women are prostituted, against their will, obviously. Epstein would claim he provided girls to Prince Andrew in an attempted plea deal. So Epstein has more or less verified what Roberts has said in testimony. The 2014 UK pedophilia scandal. According to the Washington Post, documents detailing a pedophilia scandal involving members of parliament, high-level British government officials, and, you guessed it, Jimmy Savile, went missing. The Guardian would report that an additional 114 documents detailing the investigation into a nationwide pedophilia ring also went missing. This cover-up, in addition to the cover-up of the grooming gangs in Telford, led me to believe that the suppression of this information is deliberate and commonplace. This was just an hour worth of research in between my study sessions. So on study breaks, I would guess about an hour worth of research. This is the information that comes up. So I'm only scratching the surface here. Do a web search for any one of these individuals and follow the rabbit hole. You really should not take my word for it. One has to deny logic to imagine that this problem is unique to the UK. Given the connection between the royal family and Jeffrey Epstein, Epstein is connected to many powerful individuals in Hollywood, in the media, in politics, and it's my opinion, it's only a matter of time before these things are exposed to the light. As more evidence becomes public regarding the handling of the email breaches, private email server, and WikiLeaks disclosures of 2016, it's abundantly clear that the individuals involved in the corruption and collusion within the Justice Department, intelligence agencies, and both sides of the House of Representatives. This is not a partisan issue. This is not just Democrats. This is not just Republicans. It's not just anyone. It's everywhere. It's a sickness. They never thought Hillary was going to lose. The individuals engaged in this, who, as I said, are on both sides of the political aisle, they never thought she was going to lose. They never thought any of this stuff would be exposed. So, had she won, I believe it's unlikely that any of this information regarding corruption would have seen the light of day. I've never heard Hillary Clinton mention child trafficking. I've never heard her mention child abuse or any variant thereof. I did hear her defend Laura Silsby after Laura Silsby was arrested and convicted for trying to smuggle, I believe it was 33 children out of Haiti following the earthquakes there. We send in the Red Cross, we send in the Clinton Foundation. Hillary Clinton is the liaison from the UN, I believe, to facilitate the transfer of aid from foreign nations into Haiti. And you saw how that turned out. Thanks, Clinton Foundation. So she's willing to defend someone who's trying to traffic children out of Haiti, but she is unwilling to talk about human trafficking. Take it as you will. So what do we have now? We have a president who has been vocal about ending child trafficking. He's talked about ending child abuse, and what did he tweet? Got to do something about these children being kidnapped. Something to that effect. I'd encourage you to just do a web search for his tweets about missing children, missing kids. That's what he said. And he's taken objective steps to combat the proliferation of human trafficking, as well as arms and drugs. These things move together. So the big picture I've been offering for nearly a year now is becoming clearer every day. Perhaps not in your mind, and perhaps it's a certain degree of confirmation bias, but I've seen time and time again these predictions I've made come true, and these predictions are based on the big picture that I'm seeing. Now, why CNN is not seeing that, why Fox News is not seeing that, why others aren't seeing that, I don't know. I can't say. Maybe I'm a lunatic. It's likely. But these confirmations are happening over and over, and it's reinforcing and bolstering my position. So until I have to recant my position based on the things that I've said or written, I'm going to continue with this big picture that I'm proposing. The media is still screaming about Trump's tweets and how he's going to start World War III. And this Russia thing, drop it. It's dead. The narrative is dead, and people aren't buying it anymore. You're losing the vote because you're not talking about things people care about. There's no indication after 2 years of investigation, that the president colluded with Russia to influence the election. Zero evidence. Zero. And yet they're still talking about it. If you accept not just the Russian narrative, but if you accept the baseless claim that Trump is stupid, that he's an idiot, he's inept, it's going to be impossible for you to see the big picture, because he is not low in intelligence. He is high in intellect, high in conscientiousness, high in intelligence. And if you believe that those are not true, there is no way you can understand the narrative as it exists. You're viewing things through a subjective lens that your perception has been painted that way. What's up, dude? Thank you. I appreciate that. So keep in mind that these drugs, weapons, and children do not cross international borders easily. You can imagine just trying to get into the United States without an ID if you're in Mexico. Imagine the panic you would have if you lost your ID in Cancun. Jesus Christ, I'm not going to be able to get back into the country. So this trafficking has to be facilitated. And these porous borders, these open borders, the Open Society Foundation, this globalist agenda where we're all one world with no borders. I agree that utopian vision is a wonderful thing to think about, but the problem with it is human beings. So a massive number of women and children who are smuggled across the southern border just in the United States become victims of predators in the process of coming across the border. Women and children are raped routinely by these coyotes who smuggle them across the border. Are you an advocate for women and children? Then stop allowing people to be trafficked across the southern border, because they're being raped in the process. They're in a position where, as I described, predators are looking for that power disparity. They want someone who is not going to be able to go to the authorities, especially because I was raped. Okay, when were you raped? What were the circumstances surrounding your rape? Well, I was entering the country illegally. Oh, really? That's the story you're going to give the police. Come on now. So here are just a handful of the executive orders related to drug trafficking, child trafficking, the trafficking of women, and the trafficking of weapons. And then I'm going to get into what I believe bolsters the argument that I'm making that the president is getting tough on these things. So I'm not going to give you the numbers for these executive orders. I'll just give you the titles. Here is the border security and immigration enforcement improvements, protecting the nation from foreign terrorist entry into the United States, enforcing federal law with respect to transnational criminal organizations and preventing international trafficking, task force on crime reduction and public safety, establishing the president's commission on combating drug addiction and the opioid crisis, mentioned that with trafficking as well, implementing an America First offshore energy strategy. So I'm not going to dig too much into this, but our dependence on foreign oil causes a lot of money to go to countries that sponsor terrorism and that traffic in women and children for the slave trade. I'm not going to get too much into that because I haven't prepared it. I haven't parsed it out in my mind, but energy independence is tied into this thing. If you're buying oil from nations who are sponsors of terrorism, should you keep buying that oil? And I think that makes a good case for onshore and offshore U.S. oil drilling and energy independence. I'm not saying fossil fuels are the answer, but they aren't not the answer. You need a basket of energy currencies. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse and corruption. That one is huge. I've been talking about this one since December. Eric Schmidt, the CEO of Google, resigned the same day this thing was issued. Maybe it's not significant, but that's why it sticks out in my mind. So here's a quote from whitehouse.gov fact sheet dated 13 March 2018. And I quote, "My administration will focus on ending the absolutely horrific practice of child trafficking. And I am prepared to bring the full force and weight of our government whatever we can do in order to solve this horrific problem. End quote. Who do you think said that? Yep, Donald Trump. The president has appointed a task force to monitor and combat trafficking in persons. The president has appointed 9 human trafficking survivors to serve on a U.S. Advisory Council on Human Trafficking. Makes sense, right? Never been done before. Why not take people who have actually been the victims of human trafficking and put them on the advisory board so that they can educate people about how human beings are trafficked? Because otherwise you're speaking as an outsider. Unless you've done some investigation, it's unlikely you're going to have any firsthand experience with it. Very unlikely. So the president also designated January of this year, 2018, National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month. In light of the impending Senate vote on H.R. 1865, the FOSTA-SESTA, FOSTA-SESTA legislative package designed to fight online sex trafficking. So you saw Backpage get shut down. You saw Craigslist personal ads get shut down. The difference between this president and previous presidents is that the talk turns into action, and I cannot stress that enough. It blows my mind that it hasn't always been this way, that we can't count on people to do what they say they're going to do. I'm not going to spend too much time on that again. The Trump administration is hosting a roundtable on human trafficking to review and discuss the path forward on this critical issue. So the president said he was going to be tough on trade, ISIS, border security, child trafficking, and he's taken action on each of these, and taxes. Excuse me. Almost forgot a big one, taxes. Your friends got a tax cut. Your parents got a tax cut. Everyone you know got a tax cut unless they're not working. The 50% of America that pays taxes got a tax cut. I believe that tax cut affected 80% of Americans. So don't let Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters convince you that that is crumbs. When you're keeping more money to feed your kids. Come on now. So I'm going to continue to support this president as long as he keeps fulfilling on the campaign promises that he's made. There is a reason people voted for him, and he is following through on those reasons. What he said he would do, he's doing. I'm going to continue to share my frustrations when he does not do what he says he was going to do. So I was very outspoken about the first time we bombed Syria. The outcome was good, inarguably, but I disagree with foreign involvement. And I'll maintain that position because it's based on principle, non-aggression. We should not be involved in Syria, even if human rights violations are occurring there. Fix it here first. So protecting children, and I'll try and summarize this the best I can. Protecting children is a hill that we should be willing to die on. We should all be willing to die on that hill. And I hope you understand what I mean by that. And although these are tremendously difficult things to discuss, we have to talk about it or nothing is going to be done. The power to influence things still lies with the people. It still lies with you. It still lies with me. It's just that we forgot how to play the game. The people at the top are playing the game the same way they always have, but the people, the American citizens, have forgotten how to play that game. We've forgotten how to play it effectively. Look what happens when people get online and make their voices heard about actual injustices. I'm not talking about blaming guns for violence or any of that bullshit. Look how effective we are. Remember how to play the game. Remember how powerful you are as individuals. And the internet has changed the whole game. Like if I get 2 people to listen to this video, that blows my mind. It blows my mind that I can communicate information to people to the best of my ability, and people are willing to listen to it. It baffles me that people will tune into this, that people will click on these videos, that people will listen to these streams. Thank you guys. It blows my mind that people are hungry for information and that they're seeking it out, because we're not getting it from the media. We're not getting it from Hollywood. We're not getting it from our politicians. You're not getting information. You're getting rhetoric. You're getting narrative. So I'm doing my best, and I'm going to continue to do my best. So if you like what I'm doing, please subscribe, follow me. You can see my live streams here on Instagram. Be strong, love. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with people you care about if you think they like information, if you think they want as unbiased as I can be information. I may be wrong, but I'm not going to lie to you, if that makes sense. YouTube, you can search for Benjamin Armin, BenJamin .Armin. You can also find a link in the description, link in my bio for Instagram. I welcome your feedback. I would love to be more effective at distributing this information, and you, the viewer, the listener, the friend, you're going to be able to help me do that more effectively. Thanks, gang. I'll see you.